Hi, Victoria Savage here. We're going to get started with this program here in just a moment. I'm going to share my screen with you, and then I'm going to get going here. And of course, this is not exactly the one I want, so we need to view it in slideshow. So thank you so much for coming today. Again, this is Victoria Savage, and I'm so excited you're here with me because there are 10,000 of us turning 60 every day, and this is going to continue for the next 18 years. So that's going to be a lot of us with our kids needing care. Right now, this is specifically for those of you who are already providing care or trying to help or beginning to worry about an aging loved one. If you're part of the sandwich generation, this may look real familiar to you. If you're being squeezed between your parents and your kids and trying to meter out your time, I have really good news for you because this webinar is for you. My goal at the end of this webinar is to help you reduce your stress level. You'll either be able to help your aging parent get back to a level of greater independence with some of the stuff I'm going to show you, or you can help them maintain their current level of independence much longer so that they're going to need less help from you for a longer period of time. And either way, it's a win-win situation for both of you. If they do well, you're going to do well. My plan for today is to have you learn 3 simple things to help them stay independent, to help reduce your workload along the way. So a little background on me. Again, I'm Victoria Savage, and I'm known in this area as Nurse Savage on your side. I'm a senior success strategist, and that is because that's what I do. I strategize with families and the seniors to help them identify things that are placing them at risk for losing their independence and then help them nullify that risk. I'm also a holistic aging facilitator, and that means I help boomer age. I mean, I'll help any age, but it's primarily us boomers that are starting to look at our aging process with maybe a little bit of less than enthusiastic anticipation, and I help them design an aging process they'd rather be part of instead of one they're just hoping happens. The old adage is you don't plan to fail, but you fail to plan. So that's what I help them do. So I have 25 years experience, and I didn't set out to be a geriatric nurse, but if you're not doing pediatric nursing, as a nurse, you're pretty much going to deal with the older population. And I became a fierce senior advocate for them because they're a gem to our society that unfortunately we don't always see like that. And I kept seeing over the years needless admissions to assisted livings, nursing home, and hospitals. And so I started my care management business 4 years ago with a preventative and proactive framework. I kept seeing that there were things that could be prevented that were causing people needless decline and admission to different facilities. And if you address one area of this needless decline, it will often spill over into other areas because when they go unaddressed, it becomes what I call the great cascade of decline. And so addressing one will definitely affect another positively and sometimes negatively if they're left unaddressed. So by the end of this webinar, I want you to be able to identify if their nutritional status is contributing to decline and how to improve it. In the next webinar, I'm going to teach you how to help them maintain or improve their balance, thus reducing fall risks. And the last webinar will be to understand ways to help keep their minds sharper. So these are just a few of what factor into needless decline, but I really wanted to get this information out to you so you could start looking at your aging loved one a little bit more analytically. So those of you who choose to attend all 3 webinars all the way to the end are going to have some free gifts, and that's really to give you some incentive so you can get all of this valuable information so you can look at your parents through a different set of eyes, a more informed set of eyes, and be able to help see where maybe they're heading down the road to some preventable risk factors. So at the end, I have a gift that'll help you help them a little bit easier, as well as a gift that'll help you start shaping the aging process you'd rather be part of. So today I said we're going to talk about nutrition, and it really affects more than just their physical health. Years ago, my great Aunt Ruby was taking care of my great grandmother, her sister, and Grandma died. And a few months later, my grandmother went in to check on Aunt Ruby because Ruby had no children. And Ruby was totally confused and out of it. And so Grandma did what she needed to do and got Aunt Ruby into a nursing home. Well, Ruby was on no medication at that point, and 3 days after her admission to the nursing home, she was totally 100% cognizant. Well, Ruby had only been eating Lucky Charms all day long. That's all she'd eaten. And so you can see how that absolutely played into her mental health. Getting adequate nutrition in the elderly can be a balancing act because there are several factors: diminished appetite, eating patterns, food preferences, all which need to be looked at to see which could be the culprit, if indeed they are the culprit. So there are several reasons it can develop. First one is poor appetite in general and food preferences. Well, what causes poor appetite? Medication side effects can cause poor appetite. Eating alone, cooking for one. We're a society of social eaters. It's not much fun to eat all by yourself. As well as taste and smell changes can be contributing. And we're not going to talk a lot about those today, but those are two things that can happen that'll really make it so they just kind of don't really care about food anymore. Eating alone, cooking for one. Talked about that. And then mouth pain or chewing issues. Huge, and one that goes unidentified because they're a tough generation. They won't complain about a lot. So sometimes you have to ferret it out. So let's look at poor or decreased appetite and food preferences. What factors could be contributing to their poor appetite? Well, lack of exercise. They're just not doing so much anymore, so their appetite gets diminished. And as I mentioned, the side effects of medication. Sometimes the doctors will have to prescribe another medication to give them some appetite because their appetite is so poor. And then eating alone and cooking for one, it's just not much fun. So we want to look at their eating habits too, like Aunt Ruby. You want to look in their cupboards, see what they're eating, see what they have to eat. And I put the Pop-Tarts ad in the bottom there because I just really liked it. As a reminder to say Pop-Tarts are not a good choice, and anything that is pre-processed like that, the rule of thumb is the quicker and easier it is to prepare, probably the less nutrition that is contained. And I wish I had the time today to tell you about one client who was eating solely primary pre-processed foods and who was suffering badly. And once we changed her nutritional status, she flourished. And you're going to want to look at ways to get maximum nutrition in the smallest amount of intake. And so we're going to go over a little bit of that today. First, let's talk about eating alone and cooking for one. Again, we're a society of social eaters. So that alone will contribute to not being very interested in eating well. So what can you do? Well, one thing is you can consider, particularly if you have family members who can visit, getting together literally with a calendar and scheduling on a month-by-month basis who's going to see your aging loved one when. And you want to do this around meal times because when they're social with meal times, they eat better. So find out who can meet them when, and if that aging loved one is still capable of preparing meals, let them prepare the meal. Let them know somebody's coming and what meal they're going to be there for, and just kind of nudge them, Johnny's coming for lunch, and if you could fix him something, that would be great. That kills two birds with one stone. It gives them a sense of purpose again, which is another decline causing factor that we don't have time to talk about today, but as well as the socialization around the mealtime, which is going to have them eating better. Another thing you can do is have a cook together event once or twice a month, either at their house or your house, where you get together and you prepare several meals to go in the freezer so that all they have to do is unthaw them or take them out of the refrigerator and heat them up, and they'll have a great nutritious meal throughout the next week or two, depending on the duration. You want to let them know, we're going to do this again next Sunday or Sunday after next, and so you want to make sure you have these eaten so that we have room in your refrigerator or freezer for the next set. And if you don't live nearby, you can consider bringing an aide in a couple hours 3 times a week if finances are an issue. You don't need a lot of time from it. They can come in and cook breakfast maybe at mid-morning while they're cooking something for lunch. They put in a load of laundry. They do a few dishes. You can get a lot of results in just a few hours. And then, of course, there's also the senior center. A lot of times there are buses that will pick them up. And if they're reluctant, go with them to the senior center 2 or 3 times until they establish kind of a place they want to sit, a group they want to talk to. And again, this kills two birds with one stone. They're getting socialization, which keeps their mental status better, and they're getting some nutrition along with that. And the third area that will really contribute to poor nutrition is mouth pain. And this is something that really can go unchecked because this is a tough generation. For the most part, they're not big complainers, so they may have mouth pain and not think to even mention anything. So if possible, you want to schedule a dentist visit with them. And unfortunately now, unless they have dental insurance or funds, this might not be possible because there is no payer source for that. And so if that's not possible, consider something like Ambisol before a meal, or maybe an oral pain reliever like ibuprofen or aspirin or Tylenol, but be sure to ask their doctor first what's safe for them to use so that they have more comfort during the eating process. And then if they have dentures, you want to look at them, have them refitted if necessary. The gums shrink with age, and so if their dentures aren't fitting well, they could well be rubbing sores on the gums. So it's something you want to look at. And if none of these are possible, then you definitely want to look for choices in their food that are softer, so it's not so painful for them to eat. So that's what we've got for you today for the nutrition aspect of preventable decline. And next time we're going to talk about another area that's huge that people think is just a normal part of aging, and that's declining balance. There are ways to prevent it as well as to treat it once it's happened. If you have any questions for me, you can look me up on Facebook at Ask Nurse Savage and message me, and we can I will be happy to answer some questions about your aging loved one. And it's possible you and I will just schedule 15 minutes. I give free 15-minute consults so we can talk about what your concerns are with your aging loved one. This is Victoria Savage. I look forward to visiting with you next time.